We're talking this month about practice makes imperfect. And the title of our talk today is Imperfect Practices. And it's interesting because generally we think practice makes perfect. And we know that there are practices that we do that may not be the right practices to do, you know? So um, sometimes, we have an idea of what we think we want, and we practice a whole lot of things in order to get what we think we want, only to find out that, gee, did I really want that? It's like uh, maybe a lot of times we're not taking the necessary risk to let go, because it's not always that easy to let go when I have an idea and I think that's the only thing and that's got to happen, and I'm willfully trying to make. So it becomes challenging to be less judgmental with myself or with ourselves, and to embrace being vulnerable and, like, you know what, well, perhaps I can do this another way. Perhaps I can it's like if somebody's practicing the piano and they're not doing the notes correctly or their lessons correctly, well, it's going to be perfectly imperfect. you know we can practice it perfectly, but it's still going to be imperfect. And not that it's necessarily a bad thing. However, are we going to get the desired effect? So I want to bring up some quotes because we do have plenty of quotes to talk about. All right. And so here's one. And why don't you tackle that one, Madeline?
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to hear. It's going in and out a little, Rodney, but happy to do this. Change the fact that whatever we put into mind will be reflected back to us. But we can change that which is reflected. We can uproot the old. We can implant the new. We can neutralize what is already there. That's Ernest Holmes' Creative Living.
Okay. So would you like to speak on that? Anything that comes up for you about that?
I'll say it again. We cannot change the fact that whatever we put into mind will be reflected back to us. But we can change that which is reflected. We
Mm-hmm.
can uproot the old. We can implant the new. We can neutralize what is already there.
You have any experience you'd like to share about that?
I sure would. Funny you should ask. Uh, it is sometimes we think and that what we think doesn't matter, that these are just idle thoughts. But as we become mindful of what's going on in our minds, what we tell ourselves, we become aware of what we're creating, whether it's the same old, or we want to change that. But this awareness, which I think is crucial to successful living, we get an idea, we get a thought of where we're going, in which direction, and we have the power to change that in that moment. And I have totally experienced that in terms of career. I have shared before, I worked at an office where I was an editor and I had a boss who just seemed out to get me. You know,
Mm,
she seemed totally trying to get me fired, looking for things. And through this practice, and I'd go into work every day, nervous, anxious, wanting the job, but full of fear about her and her power, this great
mm,
power I thought she had. And through my practice, I took charge of what was in my consciousness and allowed this fear to leave, to accept it, to recognize it, to leave, to do my treatments. And within months, she gave me a promotion and a raise. I mean, and I had friends who were in jobs with bosses that were difficult and they felt they just had to ride it out. But this experience changed my understanding of how life works. Our mind contains it all. That's where the work is done. And we give our power away to people, the world, but it's all taking place inside our minds.
mm.
And that's the place where we have the power to change it. It took a lot of understanding and practice, but I am so grateful for this practice. It's life changing.
Absolutely. And we have a comment from Lita Perez. She says, when her daughter didn't get the job she was hoping for, she reminded her that something greater is opening up for her. And it's so interesting how we think things are perfectly aligned. Oh, yes, this is going to work out perfectly. And then life, has its way, and we get, bosses, seemingly bosses from hell, and as you mentioned, it's like what has to change. We can't change them, on our own accord. We have to change our perception and have a greater understanding that, what, something else is going to be opening up, and I just have to have my perception in alignment, and be vulnerable to look outside of what the way I think it's supposed to be. Like Lita's daughter could sit in a pity pot and like, oh my God, I didn't get the job, and then something else could be passing her by. How many times do we not get what we want and we're crying over spilt milk, and or just lamenting, in our sorrow, and instead of taking the next step, instead of like, what, okay, I did everything I was supposed to do, the perfect interview, the perfect resume, perfect interview, everything was great, I'm ready to roll. That happened to me a number of times. And okay, so I had a moment of like boohoo, I didn't get it, you know. But it got me, number one, it got me in touch of my desire. Like, you know what? Yeah, I really want that. I really want to do that. That's what I'm here for. And it allowed for other avenues to show up where I hadn't seen them before because I was only focused on one thing, and so I just think it's great that we have this, first of all, this teaching that allows us to be open and vulnerable
Yeah.
and allows us to, like, what is perfect according to who determines what is so-called perfect, you know and I know I can take it on myself and end up judging myself and criticizing myself and being harsh with myself, like, oh, I didn't do it right, i didn't I didn't get it right. And we learn today that, it's they're all learning opportunities. There is no necessarily right or wrong. It's just like, hey, if that didn't work, what about another way? Yeah. So I'd like to introduce another
Yeah.
quote. Go
Rodney,
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
All right. Well, this kind of deals with what we're talking about. See, it says when challenges come, as they always do, make it a habit to go within at once and focus as much as you can on the inner energy field of your body. Attention is the key to transformation, and full attention also implies acceptance. Attention is like a beam of light, the focused power of your consciousness that transmutes everything into itself. And I love that because yeah, challenges will come. They always come. And our job is to make it a habit to go within at once. I mean, it's like I don't even have time to go boo-hoo. It's like, oh well, let me go within and see, where do I need to put my attention next and now. And in doing so, that really allows us to practice not being so limited in in what we expect. Because you know what happens with expectations? They say expectations lead to disappointment. you know. So, with an open mind, an open consciousness, we can focus our attention on what is on the unlimited possibilities, accepting what is possible rather than limiting what is possible. Did you want to speak to that? Anything you wanted to say about that, Madeline?
Yeah, well done, Rodney. Well, hello,
Yeah, go
can
ahead.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming you can hear me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there is a line in the Science of Mind text. There have been no mistakes. And we often feel like I didn't do this well enough. I didn't do this hard enough. But when we go within, we can find that quiet place
Mm.
in that silence rather than the busy, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, where we try to figure it out rather than allow life to move us, to move through us.
Mhm.
I love some of you guys may be too young to know Miles musician, and it was improvisation. And when someone made a quote unquote mistake, hit a wrong note, he would say, keep going. It's what you do next. You don't get caught up in it.
Mhm.
You allow it to become part of the whole picture. And in this, attention is like a beam of light. Yep, what we focus on is what we create. So if we're going to be, as some people say, just looking through the garbage, you know, what did we do? What's in the garbage? Move on. Allow life to move you on. And in that stillness, you'll be moved rather than figuring it all out. Something comes much more powerful and profound than our small mind thinking. You know, we think from habit, we think from experience, but in this practice, we go beyond, we open to something that has never been
Mhm.
and allow for that in the same way that Lita's daughter found something wonderful after experiencing a disappointment. Nothing is carved in stone. We carve it through our openness and our attention. Thanks, Rodney.
Absolutely. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And you had mentioned, about playing a so-called wrong note, and just imagine, that musician not getting what this next quote talks about. It says, "The people who help us grow toward true self offer unconditional love, neither judging us to be deficient nor trying to force us to change. but accepting us exactly as we are. It surrounds us with a charged force field that makes us want to grow from the inside out. And that is of a Parker Palmer, A Hidden Wholeness. And just imagine if that musician had said, "No, that's the wrong note. You have to do it this way." And what's wrong with you? You can't get it right. That could have dramatically changed that musician's life. You know, um, and so often we have the opportunity to offer unconditional love, where not trying to force change or have somebody stay inside the box. And I think most of us would like to think that, well, I think outside the box. I live outside the box. We don't want to, like you mentioned, confine ourselves to limiting thoughts. Thinking small and acting small. Now, I know from quite a long time I did, even though I didn't think I was. I was limiting myself, playing small, so I didn't have to attract attention. 'Cause I didn't know how to live up to that, to other people's expectations and other people's ideas. So I just stayed in this small box where, I could hide. So I thought. And I wasn't really hiding. I just thought I was hiding. Like what they say, like when a giraffe sticks his head in the sand. It's like, oh well, nobody can see me now. you know. Uh, and so yeah, now we are free. We realize we can be free to want to grow from the inside out, not just make the appearance, not just wear a mask, that says I have to conform to somebody else's idea of what perfect is. We get to be authentic with who we are. So let's look at another quote. All right, go for it. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, so yeah, why don't you read that and comment on it for us?
Okay. Without change, pardon? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Without change, there is no innovation, creativity, or incentive for improvement. Those who initiate opportunity to manage the change that is inevitable. We can open to something greater than has ever been before. We get these teachers, but we take it in. We get a glimpse here and a glimpse there. And we begin to anybody. We have to come to a point where we know ourselves as the creators in our lives on what we concentrate on. And it's not a rigid practice of concentration, it's an opening. It's kind of emptying out everything that we think we know with logic, with reason, that can keep us trapped. Of course, we're not going to walk into traffic, but to have the ability to open to inspiration and make the changes we want to change. As we say, all things are possible. All things are possible. And each change that occurs gives us the chance to open to something better. As master teacher Jesus has said, pray believing you have received. And
Mm.
in that kind of confidence, in that place of feeling the positive, the best, the highest, things open to us that we could not have imagined. Everything is brand new when we move out of this stuckness, this
Mm.
space of thinking it is what it is. It is what you want it to be.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. And it's all about choice. And there's another quote I want to bring up. Let's see if I have the right one. It says, "Progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." And I love that because I know change can be frightening. We practice so much to do the right thing, to be the right person, and almost not change. Everything has to look the same. And I have to think the same and act the same, and that's not progress. Now change is going to happen anyway. And I did a talk yesterday in a 12-step meeting, and we are talking about the topic was happiness. And it's so interesting because in order for me to really feel happy, once I started making a change in my life, I had to give up a whole lot of things. I had to give up a whole lot of beliefs about myself and about life before I could begin to make progress. I knew that on some level I had to change my mind if anything else in my life was going to change. And when I came to this teaching and I heard change your thinking, change your life, I'm like, oh wow, revolutionary thought there. I didn't realize how basic it is. That if we don't like the way things look, well, you can't change it from the outside. You have to change on the inside, change the mind. And when we change our mind, our perception and perspective changes. And like, oh, I didn't see it that way before, and now I can begin to make change based on seeing things differently and believing, like you mentioned, Master Teacher Jesus, all of a sudden, like, whoa, I believe that change can happen for the better for me. And believing it, is, I also remember the saying that said, believing, we say the conventional word phrase is seeing is believing. But then I learned that believing is seeing. And that's one of the things we get to practice. Practice seeing, not, from based on our belief, not the other way around. Because if I wait for to believe based on what I see, I could fall into believing anything. you know, it's like, but what do I choose to believe that's uplifting, that's powerful, that's life affirming, that's generous, that's compassionate, that's non-judgmental, and then have that experience show up, reflect back to me. And that's when I get to have progress. I get to feel like, yeah, there is change happening in my world, in my experience of the world. Yeah. So, there's a quote I want to bring up that, yeah, here it is. It says, "We become what we practice." Mm, by Valerie Kaur, See No Stranger. Is there anything you'd like to share about that? Anybody out there, or Madeline? Anybody want to have any comments? And welcome, Sabrina. Glad you could be here. Sabrina's like, "Hey, hi, Sabrina." Any comments, anyone? We can move on to the next one. Yeah. All right. So, um, we do have a wonderful Ernest Holmes quote that I'm going to bring up. And let's get ourselves out of the way. There we go. It says
Great,
what the world needs is spiritual conviction
great.
followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than to have him repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. It is far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. And that's Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind, page 423. And it's interesting because practicing the truth doesn't mean perfectly practicing it. It's just practice it to the best of our ability. So, as I mentioned earlier, sitting in a room with all the books and all the wisdom in the world doesn't help us to grow spiritually. You know, to have spiritual conviction is to live it in the world, in our world, and in our world of shared experiences. So we can be taught the truth and know the truth up and down, but practicing it is the work. And it reminds me of when I was in college. The dean said, you know, you can get all hundreds and be an A student, but it doesn't mean you're going to graduate. You have to go through life. You have to go through 4 years of ups and downs in life to help you determine, you know, are you ready for the outside world? You know, so he said, don't think you're just going to pass all your classes and that's it. You know, and you know, it made a lot of sense, and there were many challenges that happened, and it prepares us for the next thing. You know, that spiritual conviction, uh, and the spiritual experience. So I love this. I've always really appreciated this quote because it reminds me we got to practice this life. You know, we can't just expect it to, you know, perfectly manifest, you know, just like that, you know, just because I know the words. You know, we have to put the experience into practice. Did you want to mention anything about this quote, Madeline?
Yeah. Um, wow. And what you said before, Rodney, in the quote before this, and this is the idea of choosing. And one of Ernest Holmes' most brilliant voice. And sometimes we give over to habit,
Mm,
to same old. And if, what is it? If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. You know, so to be able to have that quiet place to look beyond whatever is appearing, to look beyond appearances. And you know, I always loved Auntie Emma Curtis Hopkins. And one of the things she says that sticks with me is moving beyond the boundaries of your mind, that limited idea that we have of ourselves, of the world. And spiritual conviction opens us to
mm,
be able to see all things new, things we never experienced, but we can dream of and make those dreams reality if we have that openness to beyond the limits of our mind, our beliefs, our experiences, what they say. My aunt used to call it mystery. Have you ever told you that? When we'd say, well, they say this or they say that. Life, I think you have that quote somewhere too, Rodney, of Helen Keller. It's a great advice. What is it? Thomas Edison said he failed inventing the light bulb. So being open to experimenting, living freely, that we build on what we call mistakes. There's
Hmm.
also, uh, I think it's called kitsugi in Japanese, where when a bowl is broken, they patch it with gold.
Mm.
Uh, as Rumi has said, the broken places are where the light gets in when
Mm.
we stop judging ourselves. Yep, you talked about judging. I'm working on letting go of my inner Judge Judy. That's just habit. We go somewhere new when we quiet that voice. It may be there, but we don't have to answer every voice that speaks to us.
Oh, yes, indeed. That's so true. Thank you. And Lita Perez has added something as well. She says you can't change your situation or your problems with the same mind that created it. So thank you for adding that. And
Beautiful.
yes, we need to be flexible. We need to be vulnerable and available to to accept that what, okay, I'm responsible for that, and I'm now accountable for something else to happen. So thank you so much. And Angela Tina Fisa was saying that people practice what they love, and get to show up like musicians, are perfect examples, and she's a wonderful singer as well. And their craft, that their expression, uh, it reminds me. I mean, two thoughts were happening there real quickly. Um, I know for me, I always would go to a concert, a musical concert, wanting to hear the music that I love the exact same way I heard it on on the record or the CD or whatever. And musicians, they're like, oh, I did that already. I did it that way. I don't want to do it that way again, or I had to do it in the studio. It had to sound like that, but live, they just play, what moves them in the moment, so they're not, it's not going to sound perfect like it did on the album, it's so, I had to be non-judgmental. Like, what's wrong with them? They're not playing it the way I love it. So I always think about that, and she mentioned the basketball players and other athletes, and they practice, practice, practice. They practice more than they actually play the sport. When it comes time to play, they practice more. So that when it's time, that they succeed, and it doesn't always look the way they practice it. And so I think those are wonderful examples, and thank you all for bringing up that in, those comments. And so what we're going to do is our spiritual practice of affirmations. Okay, so we're going to cement home some of this conversation and the concept and the idea of um, imperfect practices, knowing that, yeah, when we're in our right mind, yeah, and I mean by that, when we are open and available and vulnerable, to truth, and being non-judgmental, unconditionally loving, you know, when we're that way with ourselves, then we have a better chance to make use of any imperfect practices and realize that it just adds to our flavor. It adds to our individuality. It adds to our authenticity when we're not trying to necessarily just be like everyone else or anything else or whatever, you know template that we're supposed to be designed to fit into. So we have that freedom. All right, so we have affirmations coming up. I'll read the first one. I invite each one to take a breath, breathe in. I embrace imperfection, knowing it is the best part of life. let's take a breath and do that again. I embrace imperfection, knowing it is the best part of life. And now we have Madeline do the second one.
Perfection. It is the best.
Okay, Madeline, do the second one.
Sure, thank you. Okay, we'll take a breath. It is so that I authentically accept my imperfections with unconditional love and appreciation.
Mm.
Wow. Okay, we'll take another breath. It is so that I authentically accept my imperfections with unconditional love and appreciation. Lovely.
Mm. Yeah, just breathe that in. And the next one, take a breath, everyone, and repeat. It is so that I practice all that I do to the best of my ability. And just breathe in one more time. It is so that I practice all that I do to the best of my ability. And so it is, and now it is. Thank you, thank you. And so right now we're going to have Madeline off screen for just a moment. We'll bring you back in just a few moments for our closing comments and song and prayer. So we'll be right back. Don't go too far, Madeline. And so right where I am, I invite each and every one to join me in where I am, the I am presence, that high, holy, sacred place within, the upper room, the penthouse of thought, of consciousness, the place where God resides, good, orderly direction, mm, greatness ordained divinely. Oh, that is our true nature. That is true of each and every one created in the fashion of the Creator, in the fashion of love and peace and joy and harmony. Mm, accepting the richness of the kingdom, the queendom, the lifedom, that each and every one says yes to the good that continues to flow perfectly and imperfectly perfect. And saying, yes, I practice to the best of my ability, being open and receptive to receiving all that is necessary to do what I am here to be, to do, and to have. And that each one gets to practice, whether perfectly or imperfectly, what it is that they love, truly love, from the heart space love, from the mind space love, from the gut love, the unconditional, unjudgmental love. Mm. And knowing that this place within is visited often. That each one gets to say, oh, yeah, I go within when challenges show up, when great joy shows up. I go within oh, to unify myself with the divine idea that this is for the greater good. Mm. And I know that each and every one, in the sound of my voice, in the vibration of the voice, that shares with the understanding of the one mind, that shares that common thought, that yes, we get to practice and allow for any imperfections to guide us in a direction of where we need to be, what we need to do, and what we get to have. The light bulb wasn't created on the first opportunity. There were many, many so called mistakes, but opportunities leading to the right one, to the one that worked according to the divine design. And I know that is the truth in our finances, our relationships, and our health, that anything that seems imperfect is a guidepost to having the best experience around it, for allowing ourselves to look and look again and look within and give thanks along the way. And so I bless all and each and every one who are practicing imperfectly and allowing non judgmental attitude and saying, yes, oh, look at that, how wonderful. I get to experience myself authentically and wholly and lovingly, and all other ones of the one. So, for this and so much more, I give thanks, knowing that this word brings greater light and greater truth and greater awareness to the joy of the so called imperfection and the practice of imperfection, leading to a greater realization of truth, that in God, of God, by God, it's all good. It's all perfect as is. So I release this word knowing it is done. Spoken into the law, divine right action that is perfect, that can't make mistakes, even if things look like they're imperfect. To the law, it's perfect, as is. Mm. And I affirm it and I invite each one to affirm this with me by saying, and so it is, and now it is. Thank you so much. And so now we have some announcements. And our first announcement is that we welcome prayer support, the opportunity to pray. That One Love Center has prayer professionals ready, willing, and able to remind you that spirit is charged and already within you, full of power for your immediate use. And that's the truth. And that's why we're here. That's what we're here to do, is to remind each and every one of us. And ministers have practitioners have practitioners, and we are here to remind each other, to remind each other all that yes, the power is available. And we know that if there's anything less than the perfect outpicturing of your desire, call on us. Leave us a message and get in touch with us, and we will pray. Use our affirmative prayer to know the truth about whatever situation is going on in your life. And you can make a prayer request. And for this week, you can send prayer requests to serenergy2@yahoo.com or call that number and leave a message. All prayer requests are kept in the strictest of confidence. So if there's, just for a period of 7 days, and please do let us know when that prayer has been answered. Okay. So, let us know. And if not, then we will continue to pray, because prayer is no good until it is answered, until that manifestation occurs. So, not that it's no good. What I'm saying is, we pray unceasingly, knowing that the good is affirmed and that it is already in manifestation. So let us know, and we shall do that. Also, I want to invite each one, I want to thank everyone for your donations and for your giving. Reverend Hadra celebrated her 80th year, and I want to thank everyone who contributed in donations to One Love Center for Spiritual Living. Thank you so very much. And for those who didn't get the opportunity, well, you certainly may. You can send your donations to, you can go to our website, onelovecenter.org, and hit the PayPal app, or you can do the Cash Me app, $ One Love CSL, to make your donation. So we are so very grateful. And we have affirmations to assist you in your awareness of your giving and receiving. And affirmations go like this. Well, first, as you prepare, we prepare our minds to receive, because you can't give unless we receive. Um, and so we just know that it is a generous obliging universe that we speak into from our world. And we have an affirmation of abundance to assist us with that. And so it goes like this together. Money, as one of many gifts of spirit, is good. As I share my offerings, I know that I am actively creating a space to receive more gift, more money, and more good. And I am grateful for the ability to give and for the good work these gifts do in our center and in our world. And now it is. Hmm. Thank you so much for your consideration, for your giving. It doesn't matter how large or how small. It's all good. The universe doesn't even care about large or small. It's all power packed energy. Money is is love energy in action. And so I do have a couple of announcements before we bring Madeline back. And the announcements are oh, and things are coming. It is happening. First of all, we're requesting a member or someone that you may know to assist us with our program and managing our broadcasts. And so please contact us. Right now, you're not the email is not working yet. Working on that, but you can contact us through our website. Go to onelovecenter.org, and I believe you can leave a message there, and we'll get that. Or you can call 844-295-5155 to be of service. Thank you and bless you. This fall, we have looks like we have some students who are ready. So this fall we'll be offering Beyond Limits. You can move into living beyond your limiting beliefs by registering for our class Beyond Limits. Go to our website and leave us a message, set your intention, go to onelovecenter.org/events. And we'd love to have you because this is what it's all about. You know, you can only get but so much on a Sunday. All right. And you'll get more information. Contact us and we'll get back to you. Okay. Coming up very soon, next week. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, this coming week is the uh, Celebrating Our Soul Conference, Consciously Creating Change, brought to you by the people of African descent in New Thought. It's August 1st to the 4th. Oh, yeah, next week. Okay. At Unity Village. If you've never been, it's awesome. Even the Science of Mind archives, all the books in New Thought, pretty much are going to be there at Unity Village. So you have to go to the library. It's beautiful. It's awesome. And it's just a great experience, and the conference as well. A lot of your favorite speakers. As a matter of fact, I am going to play a brief video.
People of African Descent New Thought Group proudly presents Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village, Thursday, August 1st through Sunday, August 4th. Some of our greatest keynote speakers, some of our finest musicians and vocalists, some of our amazing and experienced panelists, and some of our fabulous masterclass presenters will be there for you at Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village this summer. Regular registration ends June 30th, so don't delay. Register today at padntg.com. Sponsorship opportunities are available at padntg.com. Volunteer opportunities are available at padntg.com. Go there now, padntg.com. See you there.
So it's not too late to register, and you can even register when you get there. So still, it's going to be awesome. We had a great time. Our first one 2 years ago, and this is we even have more people registered this time, and there's still room for more. All right. So also coming up is the convention, the CSL, Centers for Spiritual Living Convention of the Americas in Chapala, Mexico. And that's the week after. So that's August 6th to the 10th. Registration is still open. Go to that website. convention of the Americas.com, and see if you can plug yourself in. So I want to thank everyone. We're going to bring Madeline back. There we go. Um, and
Wonderful.
any
Yeah.
comments? Yeah, any comments you want to make before we go into prayer?
Yeah, I was going to, if it's okay with you, put my email in if anyone would like to experience the releasing, uh, to put in the chat,
Yes, absolutely.
to put contact. Okay. And uh, Rodney is always terrific at these little statements that resonate. He always uh, creates these little one that I just have always found so uplifting. And I got one that I'm putting in the pile here. Unconditional love changes conditions.
Mm.
Unconditional love changes so it's been wonderful to be here. I've seen uh, just so much inspiration from Reverend Rodney. You guys are blessed. I'm blessed. Thank you. Thank you. This is just a wonderful community and with wonderful leadership. And so it is, and now it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. And we're going to do a closing prayer, benediction, and followed by a wonderful song. Um, and Madeline and I will do the prayer together, and I'll start it off. And just knowing that, yes, oh yeah, right where I am, we are, we is, we are of the one, and I know that the one power, the one life, the one presence, it's all perfect, it's all good. The only time imperfection comes into the play is when we find ourselves judging. And so we go throughout this week, we go throughout this day, this week, allowing ourselves to take a look at who we are, who we say we are, and what we do and what we like to do, and not have to judge ourselves or criticize, and look at ourselves lovingly and supportingly, and ourselves and others, and say, hey, whatever we've been practicing imperfectly, it's okay, because guess what? We can do it in the next moment, in the next day. Okay? It took a lot of chances to make a light bulb. It takes a lot of chances for us to see the light, and it's okay. It's like all paths lead to the God awareness. Okay? And we get to explore it, we get to live it, we get to love it. And I turn my word over to Madeline.
And knowing with such gratitude and appreciation how wonderful it is to have the community that supports and embraces and lovingly accepts us exactly as we are, knowing that acceptance opens the door to more and more wonder, goodness, joy, prosperity, prospered in all ways, in love, in abundance, in creativity. This is the power that is always with us, always available. And we take the time to open to it, to listen to it, to shut out the noise of our minds
Mm.
and the world and be authentic, inspired, living from the God selves we can never not be.
Mm. And in knowing that these words are spoken from the place of truth within each and every one of us, from our very soul, that spirit knows is the truth. I release this word knowing it is done, knowing that it is already bringing about the desired effect, the desired change, the desired experience, in love, of love, because it's only one love. So it's all good. And I affirm it, I release it, embrace and invite each one to affirm it by saying, and so it is, and now it is. And thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again, Madeline.